Hello and welcome to another episode of the Anime Lounge podcast. I'm your host, Lance, and today I'm not with Matt. I gave him the day off, but I do have someone very interesting here to replace him, and that's going to be my friend, Chris.
Hi, yep, I'm Lance's friend since like seventh grade. Big anime nerd with him. Pretty much played Yu-Gi-Oh together. All these other cool things that we've done together. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep, we've been in each other's lives for a very long time. And since I gave the day off to Matt, I asked Chris what was one of his favorite anime that he's been watching, and we're here to discuss that one. But before we get there, Chris, every new guest host that we have, we like to ask them what was their favorite anime and kind of what got them into anime. So, do you have a top three to share with everybody?
So my probably favorite one is gonna be Bleach. Always got hooked on that. That was probably my favorite one. It didn't get me like into anime though. But Bleach is number one. Parasite. It's a not many very known anime, but I like it. And then I'd say Kaiju number 8 is probably taking my top three right now. It's pretty entertaining. But the anime that got me into everything was probably Dragon Ball. As corny as that sounds, it's
Nope, not. That's completely understandable. It's a gateway drug for a lot of people our age.
Yeah, just seeing Goku go Super Saiyan was that just got me into it, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go back, watch it all, and got hooked.
Nope, that's a good list. Bleach is a staple. Everybody should watch that. Fantastic anime. I would put that somewhere on my top, definitely. Parasite, I just started that a couple nights ago. I think I'm like 5 episodes in, and
that's awesome. You actually took it.
Yeah, I took your advice, and it's been something I've been meaning to watch anyway. But since we found out that Hulu has it in English, I was able to just casually start watching it. And yeah, I'm enjoying that one a lot. And Kaiju number 8, don't blame me on that one. That one's a fantastic series so far.
I have to thank you on that one. So that was a good. I mean, it's all over Crunchyroll, but still.
Yeah. No, it's top anime for a reason. So I don't blame me on that. Something new and modern, and it's really good. But yeah, great list. Thanks for sharing that with everybody.
Yeah.
So now we'll get back into our normal hijinks where we introduce what we're drinking for our episode. Today, I'm going to be drinking just a simple rum and Coke. And I also grabbed a Pabst Blue Ribbon when that gets finished. So I'm fully loaded, double fisting. How about you, Chris?
Just straight water right now. I'm kind of on a cleansing diet myself, so I'm not really drinking much anymore. So
nope, that's totally fine. No pressure on our side for that. All right. So now that I somewhat teased it earlier in the episode, today we're going to be covering seasons 1 and 2 of Record of Ragnarok. And I'm pulling this synopsis off of some Google page right off the front, and I can't tell exactly where it's coming from. But what they're saying is Record of Ragnarok is an action anime series about humans and gods fighting in an arena of combat to determine the fate of humanity. The series begins with God's council meeting every 1,000 years to decide whether to let humanity survive or perish. After 7 million years, the gods decide that humans are irredeemable and must be destroyed. However, Brunhilde, the leader of Valkyries, convinces the gods to hold a competition called Ragnarok instead, where 13 humans and 13 gods will fight in a one-on-one battle to the death. The first fighter to win 7 battles will win, and humanity will be spared for another 1,000 years. And that is a very good synopsis of what's going down, because that all gets explained right away in the first episode. So
yeah, you got
short
that
and simple.
Right.
Yeah. All right. And one last part of what we do in every episode is I like to share a Japanese word. So let's jump into that. Today's Lance's Lessons is going to be the Japanese word for God, and that is kami. Kami is spelled Kami, and very fitting for today's episode because we're obviously dealing with a shit ton of gods, and it's gods versus humans. So I thought kami would be a nice, easy one for today. All right, and like I said earlier, we don't have Matt with us today, so we don't have a Matt's Manga Mentions. There is a manga out there, and it is much further than the anime is. From what I understand, there is a handful of differences. One thing I can share is that apparently Jesus makes an appearance in the crowd. So I'm kind of interested in that one. I did start reading the first chapter. Obviously, I didn't make it far at all. But after I heard that Jesus was in the crowd and the anime never showed Jesus, so I was kind of interested to see what that could have been. Yeah, so there's a lot of God stuff, and he didn't make it in the anime,
Just
or at
didn't make
least
it.
I was about to say at least not yet, but like he's not going to be relevant after
Good.
the Atom fight,
Yeah. I mean, that was like the big one for him, but I guess we'll get into that later.
right? All right, so round one was Lubu versus Thor. Chris, you want to share your initial thoughts on any of that? Like this was they jumped right into battle, so that
Yeah.
was
I mean,
pretty cool.
yeah. I mean, like this whole anime is just like, there's no bullshitting around. It's just straight to the point, and
Hmm.
the gods are trying to destroy the humans, and there's no fucking around with it. My thought on it was, I mean, from what we're used to with Thor, they totally butchered Thor,
Yeah, it was
but
very
I mean, it's
strange
anime,
seeing him the way he was
how he was.
designed.
Yeah.
His character design was a
Yeah. It
very
was
odd one.
like
Right
how
off
they
the
even
bat,
did Mjolnir too.
oh yeah, Mjolnir insanely large. I mean, I can't claim to know much about Thor and him and his backstory about everything, but that hammer was insanely
Yeah.
large and it felt insanely off. And I mean, his hair color threw me off right away. I didn't
Yeah.
mind like the weird things that were going on his face, like the weird little tattoo things that they could have been. His
Yeah.
black eyes were cool. I can handle that. But his
Mhm.
overly comedically large hammer and red hair threw me off really bad.
Yep. Yeah, I was like, this is supposed to be excuse me, this is supposed to be Thor. That just no, you can't do that. But I mean, I guess you can, it's anime, so
Yeah.
power to do anything.
Yeah, so they really took creative liberties with this one, and then they ran far with
Yeah.
that.
Hmm. I
So
mean, and even like in other ones too, they do that too.
yeah,
So heads up.
and before we continue bashing them too much, just this we tried to stay positive on this podcast.
Yeah.
When we got introduced to Thor and Lu Bu, who is a very well-known Chinese master guy, especially if you played Dynasty Warriors.
Ah.
He's a big character in that one, so I recognize him from there. I played a couple Dynasty Warrior games. I don't know about you, but
Mm-mm.
some of them were more fun than others. That's for sure. But when were you familiar with Lubu before this anime?
No, actually, I wasn't.
No. Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah, that's totally fine. So when you saw this matchup right away, who did you think was going to win, Lubu or Thor?
Thor. Because I mean, like you think about it, like they don't tell us how they're competing with the gods. So you're thinking, well, how the hell is a god gonna beat or a human gonna beat a god?
Yep,
Like especially Thor, the mighty Celtic or whatever he is, Nordic god.
Nordic. Yep.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
just you're going to go with the god side, at
yeah.
least for
It's
me.
Yeah, I 100% agreed. There is no way that I thought a human was going to win round one, especially against
Yeah.
Thor. Everybody in the world is familiar with the name Thor, at least. It's not like you need to know
Yeah.
exactly who he is. I guess that's one thing I appreciated about the show a lot was they gave us a nice backstory on both the god and the human that's fighting. And it
Hmm.
wasn't just like, hey, these guys are fighting.
Yeah.
If you know them, cool. If you don't, that
Not too
sucks.
bad.
But
Then.
yeah, but no, they put enough time into giving us a real story behind everybody, making us feel for them, and
Yeah.
making them feel relevant. And it's not going to be just a throwaway fight.
Right. Exactly.
With that being said, didn't really care about Lubu. He
Yeah.
was
It wasn't my top fight. But
no,
it was good.
it was interesting. Is there any cool moments that you've thought about in the first round? I mean, this is the first fight. What was your main takeaways?
Like what I thought was cool about it, the first fight.
Yeah, yeah. Was there anything that you thought was notable?
I mean, like as weird as it is the end is how Lubu died. Spoiler alert: Lubu lost.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So with Lubu dying, I feel like how he died was probably the coolest thing. Like he lost his legs, then all of a sudden he goes on to his red horse, which was called the Red Hare,
Yep.
and he jumps on it. And then as soon as he jumped on it, I was afraid that Zeus, the Almighty God, was going to be like, "Oh no, 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 that's illegal." But he took it upon him, and he's like, "Just let him have it."
Yeah. Right.
And he goes in there for one final blast, and Thor just cuts his arms off and everything like that. And then with his head being cut off at the end, I don't know, that was probably the coolest part.
Yeah, that final decapitation was pretty damn sweet. Wasn't
Yeah,
expecting that from Thor, but
right.
where it's like Mortal Kombat. Someone's gonna
Yeah.
die in the end. But that was very cool. Before I get into any kind of complaints, I actually did really appreciate Lubu's Sky Eater attack. I thought that
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like the style he was holding his weapon, like at the complete butt end of it, like to
Right.
get the maximum distance. Like I can see that, but like we're anime logicking like extra like attack bonus because of that.
Mhm.
Just the idea of splitting the sky and the animation for that was really cool. I really like that one. So in the end, seeing that come to fruition, it was just cool, and I was happy to
Oh, yeah.
see that he had something working for a human.
Right. No, yeah, that actually was a really good part too.
Another part that I thought was super cool, I didn't think I was actually gonna like it until I got a little bit of an explanation. But those like electric gloves that Thor was wearing, I thought those were pretty sick.
Yeah, I mean, like, they deceived you thinking that was the only way that he could hold Mjolnir, but
Yep.
it wasn't. And then in this anime, they do that a lot too. They were like, "Oh, they make you think something," but then all of a sudden, whoops, it's actually a different way.
Yeah, and of course,
That's
they
cool.
gotta pull out the huge anime trope of wearing some kind of gauntlet that weighs an insane amount of weight, and when
Yeah. Yeah.
he pulled it off, and it made a giant crashing sound.
Yep.
There's another
And
thing about that threw me off was one of his gloves, like, shattered, didn't it?
yeah,
Like, after he was like it took, like, the brute force of one of the swings
one of
that Lu Bu
yeah,
threw at him,
from
and, like, it broke, and then he, like, takes the glove off, like it's an accessory and not part of his skin, so, like, it almost sounded like they took big liberties and like making this thing the best of both worlds where like it's part of your body and it's not part of your body. So it was a little bit
right.
confusing. But I guess in the end
Yeah.
I still thought it was cool.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I didn't have any complaints about that, honestly, until you just brought it up. It makes sense though.
Right. What was your thoughts on the hammer being alive?
I don't know. I didn't like it, if I'm
Yeah.
honest. It just
No,
it was
I'm
a
there
little
with
weird.
you. It was too weird. Yeah. Like it's just the fact that it was a giant ass hammer to begin with, and then it cracks open because it's alive and you like it like some kind of weird skin is trying to come
Yeah.
through it. It was
Yeah,
interesting, but I don't think it landed as well.
no. It could have just stayed a hammer and been good.
Yeah, or at
Just to
least
get
get
more
it.
power or something. But
Yeah, I would have liked to see some electrical powers or something come out of it.
yeah.
I feel like Thor got cheated in who he could have been, but at the same time, he still got the win without it. And
Right.
if we got a loss out of Thor without electric powers, I think that would have
That would have
been
been a little heartbroken.
more of an upset. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts on that?
No, I mean that fight, like you said, it was kind of meh versus like the
Yeah.
other ones that we've seen. But obviously, that's the first fight, so it didn't
Right.
set like anything bad. It was a mediocre kind of fight, I'd say.
Yeah. It was fine. I feel like they shafted Thor a little bit, and Lu Bu was kind of just like this caveman looking guy who was just all caveman.
Yeah,
That's just the best way I could think of him.
that's all it was. Yeah,
Yeah, and it was a decent start to the battle or to the whole series, so I accepted it, except for episode 2 with everything being like a slideshow.
Mhm.
I didn't appreciate the way that they animated episode 2. When you were telling
Yeah,
me that this was one of your favorite anime of the year, and I sounded so familiar, and then when I rewatched it to get ready for this, I immediately
yeah.
remembered that I dropped this because of episode 2. But
It gets
just
better
because,
though, obviously.
yeah, I was gonna say just because I dropped it because of that one episode doesn't mean that the rest of the series wasn't fantastic.
Right.
All right, but enough Debbie downtime. Let's talk about round 2. Round 2 was Adam versus Zeus. And just to throw in a little bit of reminder history, this was originally supposed to be Adam versus Shiva.
What the
Totally accepted on switching it up. I don't know what you thought, but I definitely thought Zeus was going to be some kind of closer. He's
Yeah,
like the
I
god of
mean
gods.
he's the gods of gods, makes all
So
the
yeah,
gods. So
yeah. So definitely thought he was going to be last.
yeah, but I think he got, if I remember correctly, he probably got inside saying that Adam was going to be the fighter, or he
Hmm.
probably knew. I don't know if they actually went into it in the anime, but I think he knew
It's
who
not.
he was fighting.
Yeah, it sounded like he knew, so he took it upon himself to butt in and take it for himself.
Yeah, and
So,
like how they handled,
mhm,
well, just how they like handled like Zeus and Shiva. It just seemed a little goofy, you know. It was
yeah,
funny, but a little goofy.
yeah, it was a little goofy. It's they're just trying to pull in some typical anime
It's
tropes and try to
yeah,
make it a little bit for everybody.
yeah.
So, going into this fight, Zeus versus Adam, who was your first thought on who was going to win?
Well, after you find out about the Valkyries helping the humans,
Yep,
it actually was leaning towards more Adam this time.
yep. I definitely agree. I thought that Adam was going to win this one for two reasons. One, because the gods got to win in the last one, and this could be
Yeah.
their opportunity to make it even. And two, Christianity is one of the top three religions, and I thought that they were just going to give Adam an easy win because, he's Adam, and a lot of
Yeah.
people are going to obviously
He would
love
have
him.
been. Yeah.
So I thought he was going to be a popularity contest at that point. But I guess if you're talking
I mean,
popularity, Zeus is very popular too.
yeah. But I mean, like, they kind of, how they did it in the anime, though, they made you think he was going to win it all. Like, he was winning the
Oh,
whole
definitely.
damn fight, and then all of a sudden Zeus brings out that final form and just, like, just waits him out.
Yep. Out of season one and these first three fights, this was probably my favorite fight. Kind of just like action wise, and
Mhm.
the story behind everything was cool, but I feel
Yeah.
like this had the most like shonen kind of action going on. So I
Mhm.
this was my favorite out of season.
Yeah, I'd say for me, it's probably my second favorite. But
Second?
yeah.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so then you're probably gonna choose the next one as your favorite for
Oh,
season one?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll get to that in a minute. So continuing with season two, we basically had lightning fast punches versus a copycat. What was your thoughts on Adam like even getting like a superpower on top of getting his Volundr?
Oh, Valkyrie.
Because
Yeah.
like he was like they didn't really go into detail about why he can copy, because like the Volundr doesn't give him extra superpower abilities. It's just
No.
a really powerful weapon. So
Like, yeah,
did
he
I
was
miss?
built in with that.
Yeah, he just had these
I think it's just
special powers.
because, like, yeah, I think it's just because, like, he's the first human ever, so God probably gave him a step up. I think I might have missed it, but I do think they said something about it.
It could have been, maybe it could have been like because it was made in the image of God that gave
Yep.
him like an extra perk.
Right.
So I mean, they could have said that. It could have just gone right over my head, but I think that sounds fair to just go
Yeah.
with.
I mean, that would make sense.
One of my biggest LOL moments out of like this entire series is when we first saw Zeus pull a Master Roshi and just get super buff.
Yep. Yep.
Did not see that
Yeah.
coming at all.
No, you just see this frail old man, and then all of a
Yep.
sudden, Mister Roshi comes out.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny.
Crazy.
Not only that, but like he takes an additional evolutionary kind of form
Yep.
too. Like he gets his muscles get all super gross and like detachable, and like they're just
Yeah,
whipping all
that's
around.
his final form.
Yeah, the final form, that was
Yeah.
like it kind of resembled his older looking self, just a little bit more
Hmm.
athletic, I guess. But
Yeah.
when his muscles were like pulling apart and like untwisting and stuff, like it was it gave me the heebie-jeebies a little bit.
Yeah, just a little. It didn't look natural. I mean, obviously,
No,
a lot of this isn't
that
going to look natural, but
right. It did also remind me, of course, being a Yu Yu Hakusho fan, it reminded me a lot of Toguro.
mhm.
So a lot of that was coming to me, and arena fights in Yu Yu Hakusho. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of crossovers there. So
Yeah.
so
No, I
it's
mean,
yeah, it's hard not to make these connections. But this isn't a Yu Yu Hakusho talk. It's
no. I mean, like
we'll
you think
stick with the
about it though, with
gods.
any. I mean, you think about it with any anime, you're always going to have like a comparison.
Yep.
Yeah, to some other kind of anime. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I get it.
Oh, just going through my notes right now, and I wrote down another one of my favorite LOL moments, and that's when Zeus was first coming to be introduced, and
Mhm.
he's being, I don't want to say courted, but like to make it sound less poetic, Hermes is like playing that violin, and
Yep.
then the crowd gave him the title of Slayer of the G string. So I thought that was extra funny, like just that small little crossover between
Oh yeah.
like some kind of small perverted joke, but it's still relatable, so it's still kind of funny.
Yep.
So I had a good
Yeah,
laugh
no, that
about
made me
that.
laugh. Honestly, though, I don't think I noticed it the first time that
Oh
I
no.
watched this show. No, the
Oh
second time after you said something to me about it, I was like, "Oh, okay. I bet you I'll find it this time." And sure enough, I did get a good giggle out of
oh yeah, I definitely caught that right away. I thought that was pretty funny. That's my
it.
perverted mind going into play.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about this actual fight. Lightning fast attacks coming out of Zeus, and then
Yep.
just in perfect response is lightning fast copycat.
Yeah, it was probably, like I said, my second favorite fight. He didn't really like it, just seemed like Adam had the upper hand the whole time. Probably
Hmm.
one of the stronger guys of all of them, and just didn't really have to do much. And yeah,
Yeah, not too much. And what they were kind of getting at was this was just a battle of who can just withstand each other's punches the
yeah.
longest. It was just a punch fest. I mean, I was totally on board with that because it sounded like pretty arena esque to me. I
Hmm.
wish we did see more out of Zeus because, much like Thor, Zeus is also supposed to have like lightning powers, and
Lightning, thunder, all
we got none of that. I mean, we got lightning fast punches, stuff that
that.
was pretty damn close to the speed of light, but nothing magical or elemental coming out of him.
No.
So he left a lot to be desired, I guess.
Yeah.
But we got some interesting backstories. Totally forgot
Hmm.
that Zeus even killed his father.
Yep.
Going into the backstory with Adam and saving Eve by eating a basket full of apples to get kicked out himself. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think the backstories are really cool. Just how the snake was like that big serpent with arms and stuff, and was just the
Mhm.
court and everything. It's kind of cool how they did that.
Yeah, I totally thought that when Adam entered that courtroom with a basket of apples and taking bites out of them, I thought for sure that he was gonna try to show everybody that the bite marks from the apple that Eve supposedly had eaten were not leaving the same like
The same
teeth in
indent.
the same indents, yeah, the same teeth
Yeah.
engravings on the apples because we saw that when the serpent had bitten the apple, it was all completely different. And then when
Yep.
When Adam was taking bites out of it, it was clearly different. And I thought for sure they'd be like, well, here's when Eve took a bite out of this apple, and you can see that it doesn't look human when I take a bite out of this apple. And
Right.
I thought it was going to be something like that, but no, it was him just trying to be a badass, be
Just
like, fine,
yeah.
if you're leaving, I'm leaving too.
Yeah, you gotta protect your wife, I guess. So
hmm So it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, but it was still acceptable.
oh yeah. Still a good story to it.
I didn't see much coming out of the brass knuckles. That was kind of just a
Yeah. I was kind of disappointed. You didn't really see much with that.
right. It was kind of just his way of throwing punches with a little extra power behind him, and that was really all
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah. Because I mean he already had that divine intervention
Something like that.
reflection. Yeah,
Yeah,
divine reflection.
sounds right.
And
But yeah,
yeah, I mean just the brass knuckles was just a little add on to his power.
little lackluster, but it was acceptable. But
Yeah.
yeah, again, like I said, I thought this was going to be in Adam's favor.
Mhm.
And as we approached the end, it looked like Zeus was struggling really bad. He went through these transformations. His body was shutting down on him. But then again, Adam was like blinded too. Like,
Yep. Because he was using it too much. So
yeah, he was using his powers too much. So I guess it started making a little bit more sense.
mhm. And I don't know if you remember it or not, but apparently he died like a couple minutes before the fight actually ended, but he still kept fighting.
Yeah, I remember them saying something like that. But like, if you
Like
died,
how?
your body can't continue moving. I can
Right.
understand how it can continue standing, but actual physical movements
Hmm.
that doesn't make sense,
No, but hey, it's anime, right?
right? It's trying to make the crazy possible.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's why I like this anime because it's out of the box.
Oh yeah, it's definitely different. That's fight two, another one. Throw it as far as you can really throw it, and that puts gods at 2 and humans at 0, and then that's where we enter round three. Kojiro Sasaki, the worst samurai in the world,
Yep.
versus Poseidon, one of the 13 Greek
13
gods.
court Greek gods. Yeah.
This one was a bit of a hit or miss for me, but this one
Mm.
is one of your favorites. Well, so I'll let you start this conversation.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like the yin and yang.
Uh huh.
Poseidon didn't have to work for a damn thing in his life, and he got all this power just handed to him. And Sasuke
Sasuke.
had to work. He had to work for everything that he's ever done, and like, yeah, he's lost, and he always like says he gives up, but then he goes and fights the people in his mind, which I think is cool.
Oh yeah.
And
No, I'm
then
totally on board with that whole concept.
yeah,
But
and
I
like
do want to. I'll throw a quick jab at it in a minute.
yeah,
But
yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
yeah, you continue.
But yeah, so like he fights these people and then he comes back to those people and then he's like, hey, he tries to go up to the next person and be like, I don't want to fight this person, and then just shows like doesn't have to do anything, and those people will can sense that he's so much stronger now.
Right. So I totally accepted that. That felt very anime esque. I think
Yeah.
out of all the backstories, also mainly because he had a sword and it feels very anime like. But I
Yeah.
feel like he had a really good solid anime story behind Kojiro
Mhm.
Sasuke. The one little thing I wanted to make fun of him for was when that old teacher came into his house, his dojo, and then he
Yeah.
could see that he had defeated everybody in his past.
Yep.
Technically, he defeated everybody in his mind and not physically did it. So I was like, it's kind of like just some loser being like, "Oh, I know how to fight you. I already know how to beat you. I can beat you in my
Right.
mind." Like, okay, well, prove it. And then
Right.
he never actually can prove it because
Yep.
they're all old and frail at
They're
that
all
point. So
Yep.
it's just quick little jabs to
Oh,
throw at
yeah.
him. But
No, I get it.
you gotta respect the process. Like mental training is still just as important as physical training. You
Mhm.
gotta be in the moment. So
Yeah, exactly. I
it's
mean, you
all
could
acceptable.
keep working out and being one of the strongest fighters, but if your mental game isn't there, whew,
hmm So
so
when it came to this fight, I was more interested in Kojiro's backstory compared to the actual fight or Poseidon's
mhm.
backstory. How did you feel
Yeah.
about all that?
Actually, I would probably agree with you more on that.
hmm
That's probably why I like it more, is just because the backstory seemed cooler than a lot of
Yeah.
the other ones. Because Adam and his backstory. I didn't really care too much about Lulu or Lubu's
Yep.
backstory much. So, but this one just like, oh, this is an underdog. Oh, you always got to root for the underdog.
Yep. 100% agree. This He was definitely the most interesting one out of everybody.
Mhm. Yeah,
At the
for
same
sure.
time, I didn't think he would have actually won
Yep.
because just some samurai versus a god. Had the humans not have two losses in a row and given me the like, okay, well, they clearly need to get a win on their side.
Yep.
So I'm going to expect this to somehow win. I
I don't
would
know.
have
I thought he was
definitely,
going to lose.
yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
expected Kojiro to lose this one.
Yep. But he definitely won. He pulled through and beat him in his mind and beat him in real life. So.
Yeah, I was okay with
But
that.
and then you do find out in this fight too how Zeus got his form too is through their brother. With Poseidon killing his brother, he took the form of the brother that was killed.
Well, oh yeah, was that the 14th Greek
Yeah, that was the
god?
fourth. Yeah, or was it?
Was
I thought it was 12, and it was originally 13 until they killed him.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. Originally 13, now there's 12. What
Yeah.
something along those lines. One went missing or killed.
Yep.
Got kicked out.
Amedas.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I didn't write that one down.
Oh,
But did Zeus take on that god or did he just name his last
I
transformation
think he
after
named
him?
his last formation.
Okay. That's kind of what I was thinking. Like he just kind of gave it an honorable name
Yeah.
versus actually absorbing anything.
I mean, I might be wrong, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he just took it on after
Yeah.
Poseidon killed him
Yeah,
because he
that's
was,
that's what I was thinking.
yeah, he was trying to rise up against Zeus and Poseidon. He was asking Poseidon for help, but Poseidon just said, "No, you're not worth it," and just kills him.
Right. Yeah, Poseidon was kind of a dick.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Didn't
he didn't
expect
he
that.
didn't have to do anything for anything, but yeah, I mean, it was a pretty good fight. But I mean, my favorite. It's not my like favorite fight, but of season one, that was probably my favorite.
Okay. Yeah, and in the end, Poseidon got both his arms chopped off, and then he got like
Yep.
this X slash going through his chest, and then that ultimately took him down. So
Yep.
it was a good anime fight. I would have liked to see a little bit more like water powers coming out of Poseidon.
Yeah. See, I'm noticing that too. They don't really use many of the powers or anything like that in this that you
I
would think
think
they
it's
would.
I think it's probably because they didn't want the gods to be too overpowering and
Yeah.
make it like super one-sided and not make it interesting to read the manga or watch the anime if you think it's just
Right.
gonna be like can't have too much anime logic going on.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they like to do that a lot, but
Yeah, I mean there's still plenty of it, but there's fine lines and I
yeah.
think that this
That's
showed that they follow it to a good degree.
mm,
Yeah, so that's gonna be season one, the first three fights. We got gods having 2 wins, the humans having 1 win. When you first started watching this series, Chris, was season two already out, or did you watch season one? Some time went by, and then season two dropped.
so if I remember correctly how I saw this anime, I was bored as hell and I was scrolling like YouTube or something like that, and the ad came up for it. And it was
hmm
like Record of Ragnarok season two came out. So yeah, season two was out.
Okay, so you watched right away, back to back, season one and
Yeah.
season two. Okay, yep, that's how I did it myself. I didn't. I think this series came out in 2022. I didn't have to wait for anything, and from what I understand, this season or this series kind of came out in pieces. It wasn't a full
Yeah.
season here, and it wasn't a full season there. It was like half a season, or a chunk here, a chunk there. But anyway, the point is, both of us were able to watch this consecutively, all of season one, all of season two.
Yeah.
And as we jump into season two, we can see that there is a dramatic difference in anime quality and
Hmm.
just everything that they've done in season one, season two, just kind of did a lot better.
Oh yeah. I
So
mean,
I was,
that kind of leads into the next fight, which is probably my favorite one. So
exactly, there was, out of the next three fights, I 100% agree. I feel like, I don't know if the actual time they spent on this fight was longer, but this one just felt like it was so much
felt
more
longer.
deeper. It's
Yeah.
probably long. I mean, season two was like what, 15 episodes long. So
Yeah.
they did definitely elaborate a little bit longer on some of the fights.
Mhm.
And Jack the Ripper versus Hercules
Hercules.
was
Like
such a
that's
great fight.
yin and yang, and
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
and that's I was talking about a little before. It's like it seems like a lot of these characters are all pinged against each other that are like opposites.
Yep. And I totally agree with that. If they're not gonna be like equal matches, they're gonna be complete opposites.
Yeah, yeah. Because I
I,
mean,
I
with
say,
Lulu,
yeah, I was only
what's
gonna
that?
say equal matching because I feel that Zeus and Adam were kind of relatively equal, and
Mhm.
I feel like what we're gonna talk about in the next round, Shiva versus Raiden,
Oh,
I feel like they were
yeah,
relatively equal as well. So it's like it's
yeah.
either sames or it's complete opposites. But we're talking about Jack the Ripper and Hercules, and those two are complete
Well, two
opposites.
different people. Yep.
Yeah, loved it so much.
Yeah. I mean, how they did Hercules was a little different than what we're used to, obviously,
Right.
but it was still a good story.
And I'm glad they went into detail about like his 12 labor techniques,
Mhm.
because that's something that I wasn't familiar with at all. Like, I guess the only things I know about Hercules is through like the Disney movie or whatever.
Yeah, same.
So yeah, so when he had these tattoos and special abilities, didn't see that coming
No.
anywhere, especially with like, oh, he had some kind of like lion. Oh no, I'm getting ahead of myself on Buddha with a lion weapon. But I mean, Hercules still had
Yeah.
some lion techniques behind him too.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, if you want to go into it, you can. I'm not too worried about what all the
yeah,
labor
it's alright.
techniques were called.
No, it's alright.
But these labor techniques, the divine labor, whatever they were officially called, I thought they were really cool. They were,
Mhm.
I kind of wish we got a little bit more detail into that, like how he accumulated or went through the process of like, getting these techniques, because
Yep.
there's 12 of them. And as he progresses through each one, like he gets a new tattoo and he gets brought upon more pain.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem as life and death as it was more towards the end, because kind of just like going back to Zeus versus Adam, where it was kind of just pushing through and trying to last as long as you can.
Yeah.
That's basically what Hercules was doing.
Mhm. But he couldn't do it though, obviously.
Yeah. In the end, he couldn't. But that's because Jack the Ripper, he was too smart. He was always one step
Yeah.
ahead. In fact, much like Poseidon turning the arena into a water place that he really didn't use to his advantage, we got to
Mhm.
see that Jack the
Oh,
Ripper
yeah.
turned the arena into London. And
He
because he
used
got
it
that,
fully.
oh yeah, he used that entire arena to his
Yeah,
advantage.
and like you said before, I think it's just from season 1 to season 2 is just totally different.
Yeah.
And
The animation complete, I don't want to say complete 180, but like it was vamped up so much.
oh, yeah.
It felt like an actual modern anime. Hercules was awesome. And
Yep.
something that you and me talked about multiple times was Hercules' English voice actor.
Yep.
If I assume everybody who's listened to this has probably noticed it too, he sounded insanely close to Goku's voice actor
Yeah.
too. So we both did a dive into it. It is not the same guy. It just so happens to be super similar.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So Jack the Ripper's Volunteer, we got psyched
Mhm.
out twice, not just once, but twice. I thought
Well, I
that was
mean, it's
pretty
Jack the Ripper. What would you expect?
right. Started out with a pair of scissors. I thought, okay,
That was
not
his divine
impressed, but
weapon.
whatever. And then that one gets shattered. And then as soon as that got shattered, I was like, is he gonna die this fast? There's no way. But then
No,
he
he's too
fakes,
clever for that.
yeah, and then he fakes it and says that his little pouch creates divine weapons, and that made sense to a
And it
degree.
wasn't.
I mean, but that pouch was holding an insane amount of weapons. So it like made sense that it would just manifest all these blades and whatever he was
Yeah.
throwing out of it. So that never got truly talked about or explained, whatever, because
Mhm.
of course what we all know in the end was literally whatever he touched with his gloves, which were the actual
Yeah.
Volunteer. That's what became a god killer. And
Yeah.
I thought that was insane.
Yeah, I mean, like, when he took that whole freaking building and just turned it into a divine weapon, that oh,
Uh-huh.
man, that was so cool.
Yep, that was never what I've ever thought about. Just the ability to touch something. That was so cool. And then
Yeah.
yeah, and then that building, Hercules had to like super squat that stuff and try to hold it up and
Yeah.
fight that force. Yeah, so Hercules was definitely at a disadvantage at that point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and, like, I don't know if we talked about it, but I didn't think, Jack the Ripper was gonna win this fight in the beginning.
Oh no,
No. I
it's
was
really hard
thinking
to
it was Hercules.
yeah. Oh, good a good point because yeah, the last three fights we were like, who would you think was going to win? I think I was on the same page with you. I was like Hercules, he's a good boy,
Like, he's the
and
people's
Jack the Rip,
champ, and
yep, and then Jack the Ripper is just a piece of shit.
yep, kills
So why would
prostitutes.
yeah? So why would you want to root for him? And here we are. We've got a fantastic fight going on.
Yeah. And
Hercules,
it made you like a fan of his too, just like how his backstory was and how he was raised. And obviously, we don't know if that's actually true in real life, but I
right,
don't think
right.
anyone does. So
But it's understandable. You go with the flow. Like I accepted it. I thought it was good
yeah,
enough. This weird kind of obsession with his mom. I mean,
hmm
he only has one person in his life to love, and then she turned out to be
yeah,
a bitch.
yeah. She just up and left him because all of a sudden, or she didn't want him anymore because the man of her life wasn't going to actually stick around.
Right. So I thought it was a little bit of like poetic justice to a small degree of him going to like killing his dad because of that, like
hmm
starting his whole
Yeah,
line of
starting the
murders.
serial killer end of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was
Oh, did
like, you know
you?
what? I was just gonna say, fuck it, go. You're a bad guy, just do it anyway.
Yeah. Do you? So with Adam and how he had like the divine power and stuff like that.
Oh
I would
yeah,
say he kind of had something like that too, but he just showed their aura, and like that was so
right.
cool to see. Hercules never changed it, no matter what.
I was so happy that he never faulted or
Yeah.
went in any other directions other than pure gold because
Right. Oh, it made me
that's who
so happy.
Hercules is. Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of like colors, we got to talk about like Hercules' hair color changes throughout his
Yeah.
lifetime.
That was.
he went he went from a normal black-haired kid, and then he drank Zeus's blood or whatever that was,
Yep.
and then he went to white-haired,
Yep.
and
And
then
now he's red.
for whatever reason now he's a redhead.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But I mean, like, if I remember correctly, in like the actual lore, he has like a brownish reddish hair. So they're kind
No,
of
I mean
maybe going
that's
to
totally
the
fine.
yeah,
It's just the going from black to white and then
yeah,
white to
that was
red.
weird.
That white hair wasn't necessary. That was just a anime throw in because white hair is powerful. So
Yeah,
that was just one thing I needed to throw out there because I was like,
yeah.
what the
They
hell's
might
going
need hair dye up there. You never know.
on? Maybe. But as we approach the end of this fight, Hercules is missing an arm because
Yeah.
a clock cut him. A giant. It's so crazy. But he
It
has
was
this
an awesome
Hades
fight.
transformation, and I thought I was really looking forward to that. Like he had these spiky things coming out of his back, and he had
Mhm.
this. Hercules just had this cool look about him, and I was like, I think he's actually going to win this
He's
one.
gonna do it.
He's
Yeah,
too badass. But in the end, he just
he still
can't do
lost.
it. I
No.
don't know. So Hercules dies because Jack the Ripper turns his blood into a weapon.
Yep.
So I thought that was just a weird way to win. I accepted it; it's fine, but like,
Mhm.
of course, he's just full of cheats.
Yeah, I mean, he's a killer. He's gonna find
Yeah.
every way to win. So
So
I
I
thought
guess
it
it
was
was
unique.
okay.
So
Yeah. One final comment that I have about this particular fight is after Hercules officially dies, Brunhilde is, she's having a moment with herself,
yep.
crying and stuff, and then she says that she's gonna join him when this is all over with. So I was questioning.
Do
I
they
didn't
have an
catch it.
afterlife after
Well,
this?
maybe there's an afterlife or something. But I didn't catch it the first time I watched it. The second time I watched it, I caught that quote. And
Mhm.
that made me think she's going to join him after this is all said and done. Hercules is officially dead and gone.
Yeah, he's
So
gone.
does Brunhilde plan on dying after all this is done? Like is she going to go
Maybe.
join him? which then made me question: is Brunhilde gonna be in any of these fights?
I mean, you would think that she would be.
You think? I
It-
mean, at first glance, there's 13 fights and there's 13 Valkyries, but there's a but in there,
yeah,
and we'll get to
this is the
that
first
at
of 7.
right. But in round 6, with we'll get to this in a minute.
Oh,
Just this
yeah,
now, Zero Fuku versus Buddha. There is no Valkyrie in that fight,
no, yeah,
so
that's right.
so at that rate, only 12. We can only expect at this point. I mean, unless someone doubles up in the future, that's always a possibility, I
Mhm.
guess.
I mean,
But
you think about it. Well, yeah,
if we go with the assumption that each fighter gets one Valkyrie and one of the 13 fights is Valkyrie less, Brunhilde is kind of scot free at this point.
yeah.
I mean,
But
they
do you
can
think
go in
she's
any
gonna give it
direction.
up? Yeah, I mean, she could play like the hero and give it to her little sister, and because she's gonna be crying out a storm and everything like that.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
was just thinking too, like that little sister, the youngest of the 13 Valkyries, is she gonna be forced to fight with
She
somebody
gonna fight
too?
too?
Or yeah, so I
Right.
mean, out of I mean, clearly nobody gives a shit about the other 11 Valkyries, but like we can see
Mm.
two of them. So are they going to fight or what? So I'm curious about that.
Yeah. No, and I guess it's more in the future. We got to read the manga kind of
Yep.
deal.
All right, so both of us
Um,
agree that round 4, Hercules versus Jack the Ripper, was our favorite fight.
oh yeah.
Fantastic way to start season 2. Loved it all.
Mhm.
But let's get into the next fight, round 5. Shiva versus Raiden.
Raiden.
Yeah, they said it two ways. But one person said Raiden, one said Raiden. But
Yeah.
it's
It,
I guess it's
I guess on
acceptable both
the.
ways,
I mean, like if you look it up, it says Raiden. So I don't know.
right? I mean, maybe for those people who play like Mortal Kombat, it looks like Raiden, but a little
Yeah.
bit closer to the Japanese lore, it could be pronounced Raiden as well.
Raiden.
So
Yeah.
both are accepted. Depends on who you're talking to. But
Mhm.
a sumo wrestler. I was not expecting a sumo wrestler at all.
No.
Also because I don't know of any kind of history about who was who and who was
Mhm.
like who could have been amazing. But I thought this was a very interesting setup too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, they got to pull out all the stops, and it was
Mhm.
pretty cool that they did that.
So before the fight initially started, who did you think was going to win this one?
Shiva.
Yeah, I totally thought she was going to win too. Until we got more of the backstory stuff about Raiden being too strong for his body, and he's never ever been able to use 100% of his power.
Yeah.
I love that as an anime concept. I don't know how realistic that is in actual humans, but I thought it was still really cool.
Yeah.
And
It's like he
he
almost
was
died and
yeah,
shit. Yeah.
and he was partnered up with the perfect Valkyrie.
Yeah.
Another forced love story thing that was very awkward.
Yeah, it was kind of, I don't know. I didn't like the real love story, if I'm honest about it, but it was a little weird.
It
But
was
hey,
just
what are you gonna do?
it was something, and they forced it, and it was just accepted
Yeah,
enough. Like, if out of all the Valkyries that's been used so far, I don't know why, but Thrud, it
she
was
was
just
probably,
it was a memorable name to me,
yeah.
and that was she's just some big muscular woman, and Raiden's all of a sudden like you're hot. And I think, oh, okay. Always had a thing for big women.
Big up, and then just like jumps in her tits like anime style.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Buries his face in there looking up at her. Yeah, he
yep,
was in heaven.
like well, I mean, yeah. But anyways,
So it was probably the best combination of humans and Valkyries. So
yeah.
I guess they needed to throw that kind of a variation into that. So I thought that was really cool.
Mhm.
I mean, if it's any Valkyrie to give any kind of notice or anything to talk about, their
It was
instant
her.
connection was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the other ones, there wasn't really much of a connection. Like, I feel bad for Jack the Ripper's one.
Oh
She
yeah,
hated him.
she wanted nothing to do with
Nothing
him.
to do
I
with him.
thought that was
Yeah.
kind of funny.
But like later on, though, Jack the Ripper comes and saves the little girl, so like you can
Yep.
kind of see his good side too.
Right? Like you start to
Yeah,
feel
sorry,
for him even though he's a
I'll
bad
get off of
guy.
Jack the Ripper.
No, I mean I love talking about him because he was my favorite part of season 2. But
Yeah.
I completely agree with everything you're saying. But yeah, well, let's continue with
Yep.
Raiden versus Shiva. I was really happy to see some backstory on Shiva because us as Americans, we really don't know too
We
much
don't know
about
much. Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So I was
But like, can we say that it's like that though with everything we've seen?
Like us as Americans not knowing much, or
Like,
like,
yeah, like no, I'm saying like how they've been portraying everybody that we know, like
yeah.
Thor and like is that actually how that they do it?
Oh, good point. Like how they might have left out a lot of stuff, or how it
Right,
really
or
isn't the
just
way it
made up
is.
something.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's fair. They focused hard on the, what was it, like a 1,116 gods in
Yeah.
that reside inside of him. They said that many times, so I feel like that was probably a true thing, but
Mhm.
something I never even knew. I just thought
Yeah.
it was just a normal god, but I was really cool with it. I like the idea of like the Machamp looking
Yeah.
gods, and so I was really on board with that. And I was very surprised to see that Shiva wasn't the only entity that had multiple arms too. Like we
Yep.
saw that
That was
his
his
best
best
friend
friend.
had 4 arms, and the very first fight that they had before they went on their journey to be the strongest, like that dude had 6 arms even. So it was
Mhm.
really interesting.
Yeah. It just showed you how it wasn't just one that
Right.
everybody could praise.
Right. So he's
Oh,
basically like his own race in a way.
you remember? Okay, kind of backtracking to the first fight. You remember when they were praying to one of the people that was in the stands was praying to the gods?
Yep, yep. I laughed
Oh, that
so
hit
hard at
hard.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what Chris is talking about is when one of the Buddhists was praying to Buddha, and then Brunhilde is like, "Why are you praying to a god? They're literally trying to kill you right now."
Right.
I laughed so hard because I was like,
Same.
"Yeah, that's a very good point. You're here because you
Yeah.
want to live, and these gods that you
And
worship are trying to literally
murder
wipe you out
you.
of existence."
Yeah.
So that was such a solid line. That
But
was a
yeah,
good one.
I just thought of that. Yeah.
Yep,
Sorry.
that was in my notes. Yeah, and I totally forgot about it too.
I don't even think
So
that was in my
poetic.
notes. I just thought of it. That was, yeah, that
Oh,
was a good point. So yeah. Anyways, with the fight, I, I don't know. It was a good fight. I didn't really like think it was top fight for me,
right.
but
As
also
I mean,
Jack the Ripper was a really good
I'd
stand up fight.
probably like the Shiva fight more than I liked any of season one,
Oh yeah, I agree with you there.
but I feel it's the weakest of season two. But if you were to compare it to season one, it's still better than season one.
Oh yeah, easily.
With that being said, Shiva's backstory I thought was entertaining. I was totally on board with all that. We got to see a handful of other gods, whether they were strong or not. It was still nice to see.
Yeah.
And then Raiden's backstory, that was cool enough too. Just
Mhm.
the idea that he had to control his own muscles in order to not kill
To
himself in a way.
not to kill himself. Yep.
So I accepted it for what it was. Because of what it was, I definitely did not see Raiden winning this one,
Right. And he didn't anyways. But
and he didn't. So I mean, it's
I
probably
think
the
this is.
easiest one.
I mean, this is probably the first fight where we think somebody's gonna lose and they actually lose this time.
Yeah, right.
At
This
least for
was,
us.
yeah. They were like, yeah, I don't care about this guy. He can lose, and that's exactly what happened.
Right.
So that was fine. Another giant muscular fight, just kind of like Zeus and how he was relying on his strength.
Yep.
It was entertaining enough, but it didn't. It wasn't as entertaining.
Yeah. I mean, like when he goes and turns into that fire form and like he's almost gonna kill himself too, and he only
Oh
has
yeah,
one
I
arm left.
yeah. Shiva lost 3 out of 4 arms. I thought Shiva's little transformation at the end too. That was really cool.
Mhm.
Shiva was
Like,
definitely the pull away from that entire fight.
yeah, like he dug into his own heart and
Oh yeah, I
like,
thought that was very interesting. That's very anime esque kind of a thing to
yeah.
do. Do something crazy and beat your own heart to make yourself better.
Right.
Definitely
Hey, I mean, it got
something
him the win.
anime. Oh
So,
yeah.
so yeah, I don't have much to say about that fight other than that.
No. The only other thing I was gonna say was I feel like this was a relatively evenly matched kind of fight. This was
Mhm.
kind of like power versus power again.
Yeah.
So it was good seeing them taking blow for blow, and then you got to feel for Raiden that his knees never touched the ground. He was always on his feet.
Yeah.
So it was a good fight. It just wasn't as entertaining or flashy as the other two fights.
Right.
So that's perfectly fine. You got to have highs and lows.
Oh yeah.
So with that being said, let's talk about our final match, round 6. Zero Fuku, the combination of the
Seven gods of luck or something.
7 gods of
Like,
fortune
fortune. That's what it was. Thank you.
versus the random character Buddha, who
Yep. Which Buddha's
didn't
supposed to
see.
be on the God side,
Right,
which is
right.
crazy.
Yeah, I thought that was a very nice twist.
Mhm.
Uh, I didn't want this show to get too stale, too formulaic, something to the point where like you're expecting kind of things. So to see a
Right.
god fight another god, that was a
It was
nice
pretty
twist.
cool.
And yeah,
Yeah.
before getting too far, assuming that, let's just talk about the point after all the seven gods of fortune fused into Zero Fuku. Who did you think was going to win, Zero Fuku or Buddha?
Buddha. Even though Buddha's
Yep.
supposed to be known as the guy that never fights, and that was kind of weird to me, but hey, it's anime.
Yeah,
So
I can see that. But I agreed too. I did think Buddha was going to win. One, because it was that weird curveball giving a +1 to the humans. But two,
yep.
he was just like, he was too cool. He's too hippie. He's too cool. Like,
Yeah.
he's too, there's no way that someone that smooth can lose. And
Mhm.
we saw Zirafuku was just a monster to begin with.
Right, but he was also more of like a baby though too. He just had tantrums and just I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of him.
No, I totally understood his backstory. It was perfectly
Mhm.
acceptable about how your first thought on curing humans of stuff is literally to
Take
take
over.
away their pain.
Yeah.
And little did he know that humans suck ass and they're gonna forget, and they're just gonna be
Move
selfish
on to the
and just
next one.
move. Yeah, and Zirafuka got completely forgotten, which was sad,
Yep.
completely understandable. And then he got super jealous of when he saw that
Saw
Buddha was
Buddha.
walking around with shitty people and everyone loved him, even though they weren't living in high quality things. Like
Right.
they loved life the way it was.
It was kind of a cool backstory.
Yeah, I like that they also intertwined.
Yeah, that was actually cool that they've actually met before. And even though Buddha's like, "Do I even know you?"
Yeah, so again, he's been forgotten.
Yeah, which adds more to the pain for Zero Fuku.
Mhm. So piggybacking off of the pain, his weapon, it wasn't
Yeah,
catastrophe. I thought it was a very fun way to play on that word, but his catastrophe,
yeah,
throwing throwing axe into catastrophe. So I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, I thought it was a really clever weapon to
yeah,
give to Zirafuku, some super deadly weapon, and it got more powerful the more it missed, which was
yeah.
going to be 100% happening because Buddha can see the
He's got that.
future.
Yeah,
He's got that clairvoyance power. So it was a power that was just going to continue to build and build. And I was
yeah.
starting to wonder that if it was going to get to a point where this axe was going to be so big and powerful that Zirafuku couldn't even swing it anymore.
Ah, yeah.
So that's where I
But
thought that was going to go.
no, I mean he saves Zero Fuku in the end of it, anyways. But and
Yep.
then something else happens after that, where like he saves him, and then all of a sudden the horns all of a sudden attach to him, and then
Yep.
this new guy comes out, the Devil King,
Yeah. And his name is
Poppies.
Papias. Yeah. Papias
Oh, that was another.
pops
Yeah,
up. Yeah. He's
they called him the
the,
Devil King too.
yep, Devil King of the Sixth Heaven,
Yep.
which is interesting. I think he was an interesting character.
See, okay, so like my question I talked to you, but I didn't want to talk to you about it at work.
Uh
Was
huh.
was like, okay, so the gods are watching this fight and they're all anticipating, like, oh yeah, Buddha's like, if Buddha lost there, what would the gods just be like? All right, round seven, like
Yeah. With the
this
Demon
guy's
King
trying to
right in
take
front of him.
right,
Exactly.
and
I
I don't get
completely
that.
understand the way that this anime and show whatever is trying to play the like it needs to be a one-on-one fight. But yeah, to what
Like,
you were trying to get at was if Papias were to win that fight and totally kill Buddha, literally everybody has a bad guy sitting in front of them that they cannot
yeah,
continue unless he's dead because
like
Papias is
that's
going to
he's
try
not gonna
to
let them go. Yeah,
right, he's going to try to take over and cause destruction and take like and everyone's just watching this one-on-one fight like it matters like no like literally
it
everybody's life is
shouldn't.
on the line. So
Right,
like
it's
this
not just the humans anymore.
right, this is Buddha deserves the most praise because he took this demon king out single-handedly.
Right, and, like, he couldn't see the future with that guy either, so it, like, looked bleak, and
Yep.
it's just
a,
crazy.
a little bit of anime logic coming in at the end where
Yeah,
they
but
tried explaining how like anger and other emotions started flooding Papias and that's why he was able to start seeing the future,
yep.
which is whatever, but you need to win somehow.
Yeah, I mean, and then we meet Hades too there at the, and he's talking about him and stuff like that. And then we actually find out that he's going to be the next fighter in
Oh
the
god,
season
I'm
3.
so surprised. I like Hades, much like Zeus. You'd think that he's like top of the top, and like
Top, yep,
very surprised to see them not being some kind of anchor slash closer for the
yep.
show. But like, I'm super looking forward to what's gonna
Same,
happen next.
same. Yeah, I'm excited for season 3. Just seeing who Hades. I mean, we kind of know who Hades is going to fight next, but that's just because we cheated a little bit.
Right, like at the end of the final episode of season 2, we got to see who the human side was going to use. We didn't get a name, but we got to see what they
Name,
look
yeah.
like. The blindfolded Chinese guy, he looks really cool. Chris and I can share who is going to be in the next couple of rounds. We won't tell you who wins or loses, but we'll say who fights who. And we've got I might butcher this, so sorry people, but I think it's Qin Shi Huang
That sounds right.
versus Hades. So that's going to be very interesting. I can't wait to see what Hades is going to do. I feel that Huang's with him being blindfolded, I feel like they're going to give him some kind of like superpower or like
Mhm.
another ability to see the future, or at least, like Daredevil style,
It's
where
like
he can at
maybe,
least see beyond what he can see.
or it's like a Kapachi thing where it like holds back his power and stuff
Oh,
like
sure.
that.
That too. I would imagine that the Valkyrie weapon coming out of this is probably going to be some other sword. I'd be surprised if it's not.
Mhm.
He just looks like a samurai from like Mortal Kombat or something.
Yeah,
So that's what I'm
100%.
picturing. Oh, speaking of Valkyrie weapons, going back to the Buddha fight, I thought it was very cool that the whole combination of Valkyries and a fighter, I forget what it's called, like Valander, something along those lines. But
Oh shit, I had that written down.
but Buddha was the one that like knows about how all this happens, and he was
Yeah.
able to take that technique and still fuse with the original Zero Fuku out of the catastrophe, and then
Yep.
that's what was able to take out
Take out the guy, Devil King.
Papias.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very cool. We didn't need a Valkyrie for this fight. He made his own weapon
Hmm. It
with
worked
a
out.
boost of power, so
And
that was cool.
so if we're going off of the next, we're doing 3 fights.
Yeah, it's safe to assume both season 1 and 2 had 3 fights each.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead, share what after the Hades fight, who we can expect next.
So it'd be Nikola Tesla. I'm assuming
Yep.
the guy that made like electricity and stuff like that. And then versus Basilbub, Demon.
Beelzebub.
Beelzebub. Sorry. Sorry if I butchered that. But
Yeah, going back into Christian lore.
yeah, you're gonna get that a lot.
Yep. I'm looking forward to that one too, because it's Beelzebub's problem, or not problem, but it's his fault that Papias even
Yep.
became a thing in this
Came
entire
around.
series. So
I agree.
looking forward to
Yeah, I'm
him.
looking forward to see him. Yeah, I want to see more about his side and what, like, why he did that. And
Right? He's just gonna bring out all of the chaos, and he's just gonna make everything super interesting and dark. And
yeah,
I think the next season's gonna be very dark. We got Hades and
Yeah.
Beelzebub back to back. I think that's gonna be pretty
two of the
good.
underworld peoples.
Uh huh.
And then the third fight, I'll let you say, but it goes back up to the light.
Yeah, we got Apollo versus might wreck this one on Leandus.
Leandus, yeah.
Leonidus. Leandus is known as the strongest rebel in human history.
Hmm.
So I wonder where they're going to go with that. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to dive too deep into this. I'm going to kind of just save my hype for when season 3 eventually drops. But
Yeah.
if that's going to be the closure of season 3, I hope it's going to be a pretty intense fight.
I hope so too.
So yeah, I'm going to
But
be
yeah,
very.
I mean, I'm just excited for season 3. Ready to see. I'm really excited for that Buzzlebub fight. I butchered that name again.
Beelzebub.
Beelzebub.
I really know that one because one of my favorite Digimon is Beelzemon. He's a badass. Yeah, 100% agree. Can't wait for next season. All right. And as of June 8th, 2024, there is absolutely no information on a season 3 of Record of Ragnarok. But I think it's fair to assume that one will come. I mean, the manga
Yeah.
goes far. We already know how things are happening. And really, the only thing that's going to push this is if the hype in Netflix could, push it forward. So
Push it. Yeah.
So unless there's an interest in continuing the series as a watcher, you need to give the animators a reason to do this to begin with. So
Yep.
we'll just have to wait and see.
Yep. I'm hoping that they bring it out.
Definitely looking forward to it. Can't wait for it. So much more.
Yeah.
You have any last minute things you want to say?
No, just appreciate you having me on here. I hope everybody enjoyed me being here. And I know I'm not Matt, but
no,
yeah,
totally.
I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you for joining me on this episode. I appreciate it a lot. And with all that being said, thank you everybody for listening to another episode of the Anime Lounge podcast. Please subscribe to us wherever you are listening to us on, because that would help us a lot. Also, make sure to follow us on YouTube, where we have our Anime Lounge Short Flight series, where we cover hot new anime every single day. And also support us on Facebook and Instagram at The Anime Show. They share important anime news every single day, so you can stay up to date with the anime community there. And with that being said, we'll catch you guys next time.
Later.